Hi guys, and welcome to Lockdown Central for the first APAT show of the week. And boy, do we have a show in store for you. In addition to keeping one eye on your squads play, we have super player and super nice guy Sam Razavi right here on our virtual couch for your entertainment this evening, all evening. Now, we're going to take the opportunity to get to know Sam in the first half of our show, and I'm sure he'll share some thoughts on your play later on. Okay, what are we waiting for? Let's get the guys on. Lee, what a treat this is going to be.
Absolutely. This is going to be a great one tonight. I did a quick bit of research. I had a look on Sam's Wikipedia page, but it seems to stop at 2012. And since then, obviously, he's had his biggest live cash ever in the Millionaire Maker in 2018. A few more Asian Poker Tour, successes. So I asked a few people and said, "Well, tell me, what do you know about Sam?" They all said, they just mentioned actor. First thing they said, actor. But my most favourite one was what Sean Lasman posted up, which just said, "Sam is a beast." So welcome to the show, Sam Razavi.
Guten Tag.
German. I thought he was English. Let's change this. Hey Sam, welcome to the show. It's lovely to have you on. How are you doing?
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here. Breaks up the sitting indoors 24/7. I was
listen.
welcome this many years ago, but
we're all sharing that madness with you. It has been crazy. Listen, we're going to talk a little bit about lockdown, but in addition to what Lee said, and that's the very nature of this show, right? Very, very informal. We want to learn about your poker career. Of course we do, but we want to learn, about Sam and your background and all of that good stuff as well. So, in addition to what Lee said, you're perhaps best known for a couple of things. I'll name three things. $2.6 million in winnings. That is incredible in a very competitive live arena. 4 consecutive APT Player of the Year titles. Another astonishing achievement. And, maybe your best single cash. And, this may or may not be your most enjoyable tournament. But over $750,000 in the 2018 Millionaire Maker at the World Series of Poker. It's a hell of a set of achievements there, Sam. How does it feel to be you?
Well, I've never been so tilted in a tournament where I've won 750k in my life, because I sort of got to a stage where I was feeling like there are certain things that I've gone after, which the APT was one of them, winning X amount in a row. I don't know why, just something that I was doing, and then I felt like I can't relax until I reach those goals. And one of the goals is winning a bracelet. And while I'm not thinking about retirement or anything, if I could notch that off, then I can feel like I can go to the World Series and I don't have to play every tournament.
Absolutely.
Because I've already won the bracelet. I can just do take a day off once in a while.
Well, listen, Sam, we are going to get into your goals. Believe me, we are. We're going to talk a lot about poker. We're going to talk a lot about Sam sort of off of the felt, and, relax and sit back and enjoy, guys. If you're out there sort of listening in, whether you're playing or not playing, I suspect we'll have a lot of viewers on this one tonight. First of all, let's just bring some of the guys in. Let's see who we have watching. Let's see if I can bring some of this stuff up just to give you a sense of who's with us, Sam. So Sean Lessman certainly said, Sam is a beast. And that's quite a compliment, really, I have to say. Mark Kerwins, Sharky is with us. Vince Ellie is there. Asa is back. Jeff Talbot, who's doing so well in the MVP, is back. Rich Baker is there. Stefan Riedorf from Germany is with us. Don Roberts, Peter Wigglesworth, PLO8 specialist with us tonight. Frank Bailey says, evening, Des and Leigh. Paul Haycock, Scouse Bailiff is with us. Lewis Young says, hi all. Asa says, evening all. The same from Richard. Same from Jeff. Steve 40 says, hi, Lee and Des. Ironside is back tonight. That's 2 nights in a row after about 18 years out. That's an incredible sort of turn of events. Ironside, I need to sort out my poker account and get involved in one of these games. Amen to that. Let's have it. Emma Vonlund from Sweden who won our event a couple of nights ago, says good luck all. So welcome to you, Emma. It's lovely to see you on. GMAC is here, evening all. Guten Tag from Stefan. So he's responding directly to you there, I think, Sam. Steve Woodman is watching. Gary Mason, Ian Eyre, Angie Doherty, Liam Pickering. My God, there's just a bunch of people. I see John Murray, Dawn Cook, Mark Lassman. Geez, I'm going to need to, just lie back for a little while just to keep in touch with everyone who's watching in. But Leigh, to simpler matters, the poker. What have we got going tonight, and how many do we have playing?
Yeah, so it's Tuesday night in Poker Squads, so it's PLO8 6 max tonight, which for some reason always gets crazy numbers. You're all mad. That's all I'm going to say. 201 runners tonight. We've got 77 left. We're going to be paying top 24, $250 up top. Very nice. For a $5
That'll
buy
do.
For a 4 hours work.
That's not $750,000, but it ain't bad. Where I come from, that ain't bad at all. So, Leigh, we had an insane finish to Squads last week. So just for Sam's benefit, Squads is sort of it's a weekly team-orientated sort of event that we run where we do multiple events, 7 events in a week. So every night, there are different formats every night, and players get points for finishing in certain positions. Points are added up, so on and so forth. There are thousands of points on offer over the course of a week. And last week, it was a point that separated the 2 top individuals on the leaderboard, right?
Yeah, that was it. It came down to I called it wrong. I thought, well, there's no way.
It's the first time ever, Leigh. The first time in history I've heard you.
I genuinely thought there's no way could anybody actually catch us now. And Kev Smith, last event of the week, won it and then got ahead by a point. Just incredible.
Wow. Insane stuff. And I tell you, Sam, we've been involved in online poker, of course, for a long time, as indeed have you, and we're going to get onto that. But it's really unusual, during sort of a promotion or an event schedule like this that goes on for several weeks, to see the numbers going up, and they're just going up every single week, which is pleasing to see. Pleasing to see.
Great.
It's
Absolutely.
really good. So listen, Sam, over to you, my friend. How are you finding lockdown? So we've been stuck in here for close to 50 days now. Are you based down in Sussex these days?
Yeah, well, I'm sort of over near Stenning now,
okay.
Actually, more West Sussex.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's
tough, difficult.
It is what it is. Yeah, I mean, it's got to a point where I felt like I need to do something, and that we've sort of set up a Sunday roast delivery. Obviously,
I've seen that. 14 quid for all you can eat on a Sunday.
Exactly.
Coining it in, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's all run, with regards to social distancing and whatnot. But it's all there to I just thought I had to, find an excuse to at least just get out and do something else. Otherwise I'd just go mad.
Absolutely, absolutely. And
I'm not used to.
And you've got a young family as well, Sam, right? So you've got Minshew and the 2 kids, and how are they finding life in West Sussex? Just sort of being locked up.
Well, Jordan's at the moment. She's homeschooled anyway. So
okay.
She spends a lot of time in here anyway. But we just recently bought a puppy because we thought we'd try to distract them a bit.
This is for Eli, right?
Yeah, Eli and Jordan, they both love dogs actually. And then we thought that they always wanted a dog anyway, but we thought maybe this is the sort of time that we should get one just to I don't know, mix things up a bit.
And tell me, Sam, has lockdown changed your sort of view of poker? I mean, are you playing a bit more, a bit less? Has it not really impacted your poker at all? Obviously, live events clearly not on, but
yeah, it hasn't much because I don't really play online that much. I mean, I do just a bit of fun, I guess, and but yeah, I've been a bit lazy in terms of live events, so it hasn't really affected my live play as such. Apart from obviously the World Series, which that's sort of my bread and butter for the year now. So it's a bit a bit sad, but there's more important things to worry about than that. But,
no, this is true. Do you think will it happen at all this year?
I kind of hope it will, but
I know, yeah.
That would be on the back of obviously things getting better in general in the world, so it would be a good thing. But I think there's a chance that it might. I mean, they're aiming at the end of the year. I mean, it would be nearly another 6 months or 5 months away. 6 months.
So there's certainly a possibility.
It's a long time, but yeah, it's possible. But I was actually talking to my brother the other day about this, and he said, the good thing is that, especially if I doubt they change the schedule next year. He said if it does run like in December, it would be the first time you'd finish it, and then you'd literally got 3 or 4 months, and then you're back out there again for the next one.
be incredible. As G-Max said in the comments box, he mentioned football. Be like the football, a bit like we might have one season running directly into another, which would be quite cool.
But both your brothers play poker, Sam, yeah?
But I've got 6 brothers actually.
Okay.
And yeah, 1, 2, 3. 3 of them play poker. One of them used to play poker for a living, sort of online as well, like me ages ago. He's actually a chef as well by trade. He lives in Mexico now and does stuff like that. The other 2, well, actually Eb, there was a 4th one who used to play a lot. He was really good back in the day. I think he was number 1 in the world online at one point. And
bloody hell!
It
runs in the family,
here, isn't it? Well, if I say that he was 15, no, I mean I won't mention any networks.
Yeah, poker stars. No, wow. So listen, where did you guys call home? Where was home when you were growing up? Sam, West Sussex?
Pretty much Brighton.
Okay.
I mean, from the age of 11. I mean, I've been back and forth between here and Iran. Actually, my dad's from Iran.
Okay. And was dad based out in Iran, Sam, or was he based in Brighton as well?
No, he's been in the UK since he was very young. He moved over to study here, and but yeah, most of the lot. I think I've been in Brighton since I was 11. So
lovely part of the world. Go to Brighton many weekends. I have to say, I really do.
Brighton's a little poker hotspot, isn't it?
It is. We've held some big events in Brighton, haven't we, Lee?
Yeah, but there's also quite a few players and media people that live in Brighton. Yeah.
Yeah, Mark Comdy's here, and there are quite a few. There was a day many years ago when I first started really playing, that it was crazy, the numbers. But when I come back here, I mean, it's a hotspot in terms of, like you said, media, a lot of players, but the actual action isn't. I mean,
so we used to back in season 2. We used to hold a regional event down at the Grosvenor in Brighton. I used to drive down there from Southampton. I was living in Southampton to run that down in Brighton. Lovely casino, but a very tiny card room and everything. And we've more recently held stuff at the Rendezvous down at the Marina. Which is again a lovely venue.
So was action happening in those casinos, Sam, locally, or was it in sort of home games? What type of?
Well, like when I first started playing, I was obviously just grinding online. But what I do is I go down to play their tournaments for to make something, have a bit of social life,
Yeah.
But the tournaments were crazy. You'd get like £10 rebuys. You'd have to. There was no late reg in those days. You could rebuy, but there's no late reg. So there were players that would soon find out that me and 2 or 3 other friends were always late, and we'd be willing to buy a £10 rebuy entry for like 30 quid. So they'd turn up and they'd buy the entry, and then we go there and buy it off of them like 2 minutes before the tournament.
How is that ever allowed?
I know, exactly.
Yeah, don't tell the gambling commission.
We don't want to play anymore. Can this guy play instead, or But
But wasn't it? Isn't that a simpler world though, when it was just like that was allowed to happen far more relaxed and just
it was much. Oh, it was great fun. Oh, those days. With a £10 rebuy, if you'd win it, you get like £3,000. I mean, it's crazy. Like for these days now, you go down because I still go down and play for the nostalgia, And I know there's going to be like 1 or 2 tables, but it's more just for the nostalgia, the feel of, the place where you sort of grew up playing the game or whatever. But back in the day, the prize pools were insane.
It's different.
Buy-in, yeah.
Different time. I see Dan Austin has joined us in the chat box, and Dan was on the show about a week ago, and he was talking about a very similar situation in Grosvenor, Cardiff, where again you'd go down for a 10 or a £20 freeze out or a rebuy or whatever, $3,000 first prize. I mean, those were the days. You don't see it locally these days, I have to say. So tell me, Sam, what did mum and dad do? I'm trying to figure out, sort of how you got into poker, and what type of player you are, whether you're a numbers guy or a reading your opponent type of guy. What's your style, and where did that come from?
Yeah, I mean, numbers. No thanks. I mean, I've always felt like I've always relied on my instincts with poker, and I think that's why I think, in a sense, a lot of people have never really taken me that seriously in the game, and I haven't really, although I'm quite good friends with a few sort of big names, I've never sort of mingled with that crowd. I'm never into optimal play and blah de blah this and that and the other. I'm like, I take a decision based on at the time, if I think if the risk is worth the reward, I take it. I don't think let me run this through my number cruncher and decide whether it's the optimal decision in this moment. My dad used to play poker in Iran. I remember that.
Okay.
And that's probably part of why. And he's a gambler himself on the horses. He made a lot of money.
I was going to say, is there a gambling culture in Iran? Because I know it's huge in Ireland, for example. It's quite a thing. You wear it as a badge of pride if you're Irish. You've come from some form of gambling background. Was it similar in Iran, or was that quite an odd thing for Dad to be doing?
I can't really comment on it that much because I was obviously about 9 or 10 at the time.
Yeah.
I used to watch him sit around, and they used to have these bundles of cash, and they played they pretty much played a form of, 6+ Hold'em. That was basically what they played.
Okay.
And that was back in, nearly 30 years ago.
I'd say very much ahead of the curve. Yeah, wow.
Yeah, it's great. Like, when I saw 6+, I was like, oh, this is what my dad used to play. What I used to play at my uncle. But my dad used to tell me stories of how when he was in the army, because he obviously had to, everyone at mandatory 2 years, I think, he used to be really good friends with his family had influence. So they used to play with all the generals and, take their money, and then they used to come round in the morning and ask him if he was going to get up that morning, as opposed to get up and have a shave and whatnot. Oh, are you going to come out on call today, Rez, or not? No, I'll stay in bed. I'll see the game later,
That's fair enough. It sounds like I think we've figured out, Lee, where Sam got his card sort of instincts from, who in the family. I think it's Dad, absolutely. I have to say. I think you'll find that Mum probably managed the household budget probably quite well. That's the way I'm sensing it. Would that be right, Sam?
Pretty much, yeah. That's a good read, actually, yeah.
So what were your interests as a kid then? I mean, okay, so we know acting. We know that's a thing. Were you interested in sports? Were you academic? What was your thing when you were growing up as a kid?
When I was actually growing up as a kid, my dream really was to be a pilot for some reason. I haven't got a clue why, honestly, and I don't know when that died out. But then I really wanted to go into law, and that's what I ended up taking at college, like at A-levels. I studied law for a bit, and then out of nowhere, for some reason, because I was really, really shy back in the day, I don't know why I suddenly thought, I want to try out drama. I can't remember why. I think I really don't know why. So I dropped out of college to re-enroll the next year to do drama, but then I had to do the same 2 or 3 subjects, and I kept missing the other subjects to focus on plays and writing plays and doing drama, and eventually I couldn't continue at college because I was just focusing on drama and nothing else. So they said, you can't come here and do that. So So I dropped out of that, and I ended up working at, my uncle had a restaurant in Brighton. That's where I got into cooking originally. And then an acting academy opened in Brighton, the Academy of Creative Training, and they did a diploma course where you could go and train in the evenings. So what I do is I'd work at the restaurant during the day, then I go in the evening and train as an actor there. And and that was that. I mean, basically, it wasn't long out of drama school that I met an actor who said, "Let's sit down and have a game of poker."
Let's play poker. Don't tell me a broke actor, right?
Well, he was after a few weeks.
Oh, listen.
After a few weeks.
You know, the sliding mirrors, okay? It's that type of thing, right? But listen, Sam, you should be proud because you are an award-winning actor now, right? So, late last year, you became an award-winning actor, right? And I'm talking about Talking Side. So the guys won't know this, but Sam was part of the Wick Theatre Company down there in Sussex. Had a major role in a play called Taking Sides. You were the major, right? The American major, and you were very well reviewed. I saw that on the line, and you won some awards.
Yeah, well, I've always, ever since I started playing poker, every year I've said next year.
Yeah. Next year, Rodney.
This time next year, next year I'm going to really get into acting. But because my poker took me to Asia and eventually the Philippines, where I met my wife, I really looked into trying to do stuff out there, but it's just wasn't possible. So the minute I moved back to the UK, effectively, like last October, I started immediately looking for, auditions, and then I found this Wick Theatre Company.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe the quality. They're actually awarded some money by the lottery, the National Lottery. I think they had £1 million to do the place up, and it was just I was cast a small role in a production of Macbeth there. And then I went in there and I thought, wow, this theatre is just amazing. It's like being in a professional theatre. It was just incredible. So anyway, the opportunity came up to audition for this piece, Taking Sides, which is about it's based in World War II, and they're questioning Wilhelm Furtwängler, which is the
conductor, right?
Yeah, for the Berlin. But I can't remember. He's a famous conductor in Germany, and basically, interrogating him about his role in the Nazi Party. But yeah, it was an amazing role, and I auditioned for it, and I was offered the part, but then it happened to sort of, the rehearsal schedule clashed with the World Series of Poker.
Oof.
But I knew this piece would be amazing. It was such a great role that I was prepared to actually miss the World Series of Poker to rehearse that. So I had a discussion with the director. I said, listen, I can learn the lines. I'll miss some of the rehearsals, but when I come in, I should be really ahead of the game there with having learnt all the lines and whatnot. And he eventually agreed, and I remember sitting there. I used to go to the cash games at Caesar's Palace in the morning, and I'd have the script in one hand, and then I'd be playing poker, and the World Series of Poker last year, that's what I was doing, learning that
But of course, Sam, the thing is, you could afford to miss a World Series of Poker because there'll be one the following year, won't there? It's never going to get cancelled or anything, is it? So
yeah, well, exactly. Exactly that. It's always there. And
yeah.
But yeah, we ended up working really hard on that, and then me and the guy that played the conductor, we both won. They said they couldn't split it, so we won the joint Best Actor award at the Brighton and Hove Arts Council award.
No, that's fantastic.
That was really, it was great.
That's a good award. I don't know if you can see it, Sam. I put the picture of the two of you up on the screen, and it looks really great, I have to say.
Come on.
Yeah. So you're obviously you're a passionate guy, right? That comes across. So are you? Did you really enjoy the experience? Did it deliver as you had hoped acting would for you? And is there more to follow?
Do you mean the experience of acting in general?
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking that play in particular, because that felt like a really sort of professional environment, and theatre is tougher in many respects than a film, a set, as it were.
Yeah. Well, this I mean, theatre's always been my passion, especially after I did a film once where we were filming a 30-second shot in this prostitute's bedroom in Soho, and we were there for 9 hours, and the 30 seconds, and the director phoned me back the next day and said, the lighting was slightly off.
What a prick.
So can we do it again? And we had to go for another 9 hours to do that whole thing again because the lighting was slightly off. But I mean, I mean, there's nothing like being on because if you make mistakes,
exactly,
in film,
doing it live. There's nothing quite like doing it live, right?
Yeah, and especially if you're in such a good production, because all around the cast was great, the director. It was just like, I mean, there are a few things more rewarding. I have to, balancing the two, being up there on performing in a show like that, and actually, the feeling of winning a major tournament, they're sort of hand in hand. The feeling is similar. Yeah.
Do you think that the acting is maybe why you don't necessarily play poker online and prefer the live, because it gives you more of that kind of that being able to put on a bit of a show and a persona maybe at the table? I mean, I won't lie. Partly the online game has obviously advanced to a point where it's I believe it's much different than live, obviously, because there are certain things. One thing, I don't know if you guys ever get into the discussions about these heads-up display and whatnot. Yeah. But I've never sort of agreed with that, and that's why I've played so much online back in the early days that the thought of going back to playing online now, especially with me refusing to use any tools that would give me any sort of edge, I think my days of online have come to a point where it's really just for for a bit. Well, I think it is going back. So obviously, Party Poker have now obviously removed heads-up displays from being able to being used on their software, which I think is a good step because it's just tries to level it out a bit. I think Party Poker. I mean, Rob Young. I mean, he's just. I think we had a bit of a disagreement many years ago, but Rob. I mean, if you look at what he's been doing, he's just relentless. He's a machine, right? Yeah, he really has to be given credit. I think you really can't fault him for the fact that he goes above and beyond. You can tell there are things he doesn't have to do, but he just goes above and beyond to really make the experience as optimal as it can for all people involved, and that's a sign of someone that has true passion, and that's it's important, isn't it? I mean, we've been around, Sam, for about 14 years. We held our first sort of season back in 2006. We actually launched 2 or 3 weeks before Dusk Till Dawn launched, so it all sort of happened at the same time. And through that entire season, we had maybe 6 national events with an average field size, probably 170, 180 runners, so pretty big. Every single player that exited an APAT event in the entire first season was given a round of applause as it was all about sort of being a warm face for players, welcoming them into an intimidating environment, which is a casino full of intimidating people. And I like to think that it made a bit of a difference in terms of introducing new people into poker and changing some attitudes amongst the casinos towards poker players. And one of the things that has stood out for me about you in terms of the bit of research that I've done for this, and some things that I've just seen you do and say in the past, is that you are that sort of passionate guy. You're not into your hoodies and your glasses and your scarves and your hoods and all of that sort of stuff. You want to play the game with a smile, and I suspect that's a big part of why you spend a lot of time in the Philippines. And we're going to talk about all of that sort of stuff. But I think we really align and identify in terms of how the game should be played. And it's really nice to see Party taking some steps with real names and removing hoods and just trying to simplify the game and give people a good, honest experience. Quite like that. So anyway, there you were sat with a broke actor, and he taught you how to play poker, and you then took all of his money, you took his next paycheck, and you somehow found your way playing for Neil Channing at black belt.
How did that all happen?
Yeah. So this guy turned around and said, I was basically doing it straight out of acting, out of drama school. I got my first job was a year's tour of Germany, basically performing to schools. I came back and did another year or so of maybe 2 years of producing and directing shows for a company in Italy. And then when I came back from that, I got this one job up north in Huddersfield. And it was also for a theatre and education company for schools. And basically, the woman that owned that theatre company, she owned a restaurant and hotel. And what she'd do is she'd put all the actors into the restaurant would run as is, but the hotel rooms were all reserved for the actors. And there was a big common room where the actors would, in the evening, would congregate and do whatever, watch Friends or what. And this guy said, "Oh, should we play some poker?" And I was like, "Okay." Sat down. I only remembered, this sort of 6+ hold'em from Iran, and so we started playing, and I thought, "Oh, this is quite fun." I hadn't played poker for years, and then I would go home on the weekends from Huddersfield to Brighton. God knows why, but and then on the weekends I started playing online. Found it online and started playing, and then I think I finished that job, and then it was maybe 2 or 3 months later when I started sort of making money at poker. I got a job with the same company, and the same guy was there. Actually, I must tell this story. Yeah. At this point, I started sort of knowing what I was doing, and he turned around and said, "Oh, should we have a game of poker again?" He obviously was like, "Oh, that's that Sam, that fish. I won £4 off him last time." By the end of the night, I was never going to take his money, obviously, because he's an actor. I'm an actor. We're making £250 a week, I think. And he said, "Okay." So he'd lost that week's paycheck coming up, and the following week's paycheck. Then he said, "Okay, I'm going to leave it there. That's 3 weeks. I can pay you."
A payment plan.
I waited until it got to that point, and I said, "Look, I just wanted to play for fun. I'm obviously not going to take your money because it is what it is. I probably owe him. Now if I look at it, what's come of it since, I probably owe him a few dividends. But that was that. That job was cut short because it was." The London bombings happened. We were actually, the tour was based in Huddersfield, but we were coming down to tour London.
Okay.
And we were staying in and around that area where the bombings took place. And I had a disagreement. I was sort of the team leader, and I had a disagreement with the director of the company because the bombings had occurred, and they said, "Well, we want you to stay in London because you might have another show later." I said, "We're clearly not going to stay in London. There's a terrorist attack." I said, and they were only interested in, I was disappointed in their attitude towards, the safety of their actors.
Yeah. London bombings was what? So that would have been what? 2005.
2005. Yeah.
It was July 2005. So at that time, what was your edge? Do you think, Sam? Obviously, I'm going to assume here that you weren't picking up Doyle's books and Harrington's books and doing that sort of stuff. And I might be wrong. Correct me if I am. But what was your edge? Yeah. What made you so confident so quickly?
I think what happened is because I started understanding how to play, but I probably, I played low stakes and lost for nearly the best part of the year. Even though I had an edge over that guy, I probably wasn't, I was playing the wrong games. I was playing $10 sit and goes. I didn't have a clue why. I don't know why. But then there just happened to come. There was one day where I won 2 tournaments. One on the old Victor Chandler software. That was great.
Yep.
And one on something else I can't remember for about $5,000. And then what I did is I went into playing online. Essentially, looking back on it, it was basically bum hunting, which I didn't even know was a thing back then, But I think all the people that now sort of try to play heads up for a living would have been, they'd be majorly jealous of the setup I had because I was back in the day, there were a few networks where they had heads up games, and it was me and one other person that would sit, on the heads up tables, and there was no one else. So anyone that played heads up would come and sit against us, and quite often it was just me. And so obviously, I'm not saying that I was great, but I had the fortune probably of playing people that were just not as good as me. So I started making a lot of money, and obviously the more money you make, the more you can afford to play. It's, for me, everything. And if you want to be good at anything, it's all down to experience. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
If I have a choice of reading books and studying the game from players that have made millions and billions, I think nothing beats, not saying that it's not helpful, but nothing beats experience. So I had the fortune, obviously, of building up a bankroll from players that were worse than I was, I guess. And then I managed to start then playing in the casinos. I would be bored playing tournaments in the casino, because what I'd do is I'd build up a stack. After the break, I'd get really bored, and then I just literally, it was the same story every night. I'd go and build up a stack and then get bored, but it was fun while it lasted, But I think that's why after that year and all those playing thousands of heads-up hands, I think I just got a knack for the game, to be honest. I mean, I just got... Sorry, I'm just removing one of my laptops for my wife, so it's underneath my wife. But yeah, I just got a knack for the game, really, and I think I was just lucky to come into it at that stage, because I certainly wouldn't have met, the money that I made online was what enabled me to go further with everything else I've done. And if I'd come in a few years later, it probably would have been a different story, I guess.
I guess that period between 2005 and maybe 2010, that was a peak period for poker, right? Coming just after Moneymaker, it was a great time for online play.
It's just the golden days.
Yeah, golden days. They're long gone, I'm afraid, Sam.
The days you yearn for, yeah.
Some of us are still awaiting them, I have to say, but that's okay. I don't want you crying for me. Okay, so how did you find your way to black belt and playing with Channing, and how did that happen?
I've gone on rambling. I picked up lots of Neil's habits, but he. So what happened is I found myself in Thailand. Playing online, because an ex-girlfriend of mine we'd gone on holiday there.
Careful
and
now.
When we split up, I was always a bit dubious about going anywhere, especially Thailand. I thought, oh my God, I'm going to end up they're going to plant drugs on me, whatever. But then I figured out that it was the perfect, for what we were doing, playing online, me and my friend, it was the perfect time zone, because we'd go there, we'd wake up in the morning at 7 a.m., and then you've got all these people coming home drunk online in the UK, and then you'd be playing against them, and it was just, it was sort of the life. So then while I was out there, I think I was in Bangkok one evening, and then it was either Jamie Burland or Kevin Williams. One of them messaged me and said, by the way, Black Belt are doing this thing called the grading. Yeah. Which I don't know if you
I remember it. I remember it. Yeah.
So at the time, I had the fortune of, because they were looking for, people that can contribute to the blog, people that can put in a lot of volume. And I thought, I've got this locked up, because I'm quite a good writer. I used to be, write books for, a hobby. And at the time, I was the highest winner on the iPoker network, and I was playing no bigger than 1-2. So I thought, well, this is a lock-in, isn't it? Because basically you had to play for a month there, rake, and I knew that if I put in a lot of volume and I wasn't losing, so it wouldn't be a losing venture for me, and chuck out a few blogs, and at the end of it, the prize was a trip to the Aussie Millions.
Yeah.
They're like all expenses paid, main event, 2-side events. So I jumped on that, and I ended up being one of, I think it was me and one other guy, Adam Stoneham, I think it was.
Okay.
And we ended up winning the package to Australia. And really not having much experience in tournament poker, apart from I played a couple of UK IPTs, but it was always the same. I didn't have a clue about changing gears and God knows what. I was just a heads up bum hunter. But anyway, I got to Australia, and I don't know how. Honestly, I don't know how I found my way onto the final of the main event. But I do have to say, in hindsight, given what happened with Full Tilt, I did the most ridiculous thing against Howard Lederer and busted him like late on day whatever. It folded round to in the small blind. I had like 50 bigs effective, and I've got pocket threes. And me being, me, I was like, I don't know what to do here. Oh, it's Howard Lederer, the professor. I said, right, I'm all in.
Keep it simple.
And he had ace king. He snapped me off. We were almost equal in chips. And the board paired on the turn. So I was like, on the flop. So I was like, oh, Jesus, I had to miss, everything. Ace, king, backdoor flush draw, double board pair. And I was like sitting there feeling like I was about to do the walk of shame, and it just bricked out. And I just remember him standing up, and he literally sort of walked out in a daze. He couldn't believe what had happened. And I just, looking back on it now, I should have enjoyed that moment a bit more, but no judgment on Howard.
Quite a few of us thanking you for it now, late in the day, but we'll thank you for it now. Okay, so how did that tourney finish for you?
So yeah, and then I ended up busting in sixth place in that. For
okay,
like 250.
Wow. That's all right.
Yeah, it was good. The deal with Black Belt was it was 50-50.
Okay.
And then 50% of that was sort of how the 50% of their share would go back into taking me into other tournaments.
I'm just looking at that final table now, and so Patrick Antonius finished 8th, Sorrel Mitzi finished 9th, Chris Moorman was 7th. Jeff Rossiter, James Keys finished 2nd.
Okay.
And David Gore won it in the end.
Wow.
Yeah. No, that's some final table.
Great days. But the Aussie Millions at Crown Casino, it was the Aussie Millions, Sam, right?
Yeah, that's right.
That was a huge event. That was normally held in January, right? That was like the big start to the year. Big event. So was that then your gateway to, if you like, committing longer term to playing out of the Far East, or that set you up to a degree, right?
Well, it was definitely the point that I said, because I was getting bored of online anyway.
Yeah.
Just, sitting there playing, what sort of life is it, And I'd only really tolerated that life on the back of one day I'm going to go and do acting. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Seeing that, feeling that rush of being on a high profile final table, I just felt like, oh, this is something I could actually make some noise with in terms of tournament poker.
Yeah.
And that's when I literally must have taken the decision to go basically and pursue a career in tournament poker, which at the time I didn't know was probably one of the toughest things to do as a poker player, to make a living playing tournaments. But I've always said that, I'll put it down to luck or whatever, but I had a great 2012, I think, which making a lot of deep runs, and in that space of time, what I've always managed to do, which I've tried to teach some friends that haven't gone on to be as successful as they could because they wouldn't listen to me. I said, always look at mistakes you've made or how you busted, and instead of trying to say, well, he would have called anyway, I couldn't have done anything different, always try and analyze your play. And so what I did in that stretch of time is I was fortunate enough to have situations that I'd messed up, like in the last two tables of a big tournament, and it's the same situation would come up like a month later in another big tournament.
Yeah.
And then I'd play it a different way, and my game really improved just on the back of experience in that 1 year. So.
I mean, your Hendon mob for 2012 shows 38 live cashes. So how many tournaments did you play in that year?
I was just, it was because everything had come together, like playing live tournaments, and my love for sort of, or my interest in traveling. So I was just literally playing anything that sounded interesting on.
Yeah.
I'd search on the Hendon mob. Oh, this is coming up. I'd always try to look for obscure places because of the flags. I found a tournament in Egypt once and managed to squeeze out third place there. And
I was going to say, I can see it now. So Sharm el Sheikh, and then a month later you're back in Brighton, then off to Vegas. Then we got Macau, Mauritius, New Zealand. Oh, that was Melbourne.
He's probably on the old KLM. It's the KLM air points, the blue air points.
Panama City.
We've all done it, mate.
To Pai. Where is Bavet City? I don't even know where that is.
That's in Cambodia. Yeah.
Goa.
That hotbed of poker, Cambodia.
Yeah, and then once he got through 2012, he started 2013 in Edinburgh. I mean, that says it all, doesn't it?
That is a cold start to any year, I have to say. And we probably have a few Edinburgh people in the chat box, and they will attest that indeed is a cold place to be at any time of the year. Yeah. So you started your APT and your Asia journey in particular. You won Player of the Year in your first sort of full-time year on that tour. You were to go on and win that 4 times consecutively. But not only did you take the Player of the Year, but you met your future wife. And I think you played heads up with Menchu at least once, if not maybe twice. Yeah, actually, because I met her in Cebu, which is where that was the first APT event I played, although I played a random one in Macau a couple of years before. And yeah, she was she'd lived for some time in America, and I found out that she used to grind games at the Bike and the Commerce, and she didn't play poker. She didn't play tournament poker that much, but obviously, we got to know each other. She eventually had a good shot at APT Player of the Year herself. Yeah.
After we were playing and discussing hands and whatnot, and I think she actually ended up finishing second or third. In one of the Player of the Year races. I think it was the one where I got my second or third Player of the Year. But yeah, that's it's amazing really how life goes.
Well, it's luck of the draw, right? You met a good woman there, I have to say. And tell me, was it difficult to mix that whole relationship with you both going for the same titles? Was that challenging towards the relationship or not?
No, not. Not in particular. I mean, it was funny that especially in Macau, we actually ended up heads up on one table, and that was when we were sort of, I think, first and second on the leaderboard. Or she was high up and I was quite far down. But I always said, she obviously understands as well, and we both always maintained, obviously to play fair, because if you have to win anything by being given a foot up, I mean, what's the point?
Yeah, it's not satisfying.
I said so. I wouldn't want you to lose against me, and I wouldn't want to lose to you because then you haven't really won it, have you?
Yeah, we've got a ton of relationships ongoing in APAT, husbands, wives, boyfriends, girlfriends, for whatever it may be. They're massively competitive when they're playing together, and that's the way it should be. So, what drove you on to how did you manage to win Player of the Year 4 times consecutively? I mean, that sounds ridiculously hard.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know what it was the first one. I didn't know there was an APT Player of the Year until because I just played the event in Cebu. Then I started going back to sort of woo Menchu, and then I would check to see what's going on in Asia, so that I could sort of go and play something, and then have a quick trip to Cebu to meet Menchu for a bit. And then I checked on the Asian Poker Tour website to check their schedule, and then realised there was a Player of the Year race going on. So I thought, that'd be something nice to win. So I put my efforts into that, and then I ended up winning it the first year. And I thought, okay, I'm out in Asia, I'll try and win it a second time.
It's mine now.
And then I managed to do that, and then I just thought three is my lucky number, and I thought, but I I sort of felt locked in then. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Honestly, by the time I won it the fourth time, I really wanted to. And if I'd known after the fifth one they were going to stop the Player of the Year race, I would have gone for it because I was ahead by quite a lot, and then I sort of deliberately missed the last few stops, and I wouldn't take anything away from the guy that ended up winning it, but he won by a margin of the average points I would make on a series, and I missed 3 or 4 series of them. So I feel a bit bad because I could have just done the clean sweep and won 5. That would have been a nice number.
Oh, well, believe me, 4 was absolutely exceptional. And how would you describe poker in Asia at that time? Was it more akin to, mid 2000s sort of US, i.e. less technical, or what was it?
I was attracted to the fun games, and I don't mean in terms of fun as in this player's a donkey or whatever, but that's what sort of dragged me away from and kept me away from the EPTs, because I remember going to play a couple of EPTs and I thought, I don't feel at home here. They're so serious, and I know the buy like €5,000. I thought, Christ, I can't sit here and play poker all day. I'm going to kill myself,
Yeah.
And I just found that in Asia that players were so friendly. They'd win and they'd have a laugh. They'd laugh when they lost, and you could play and there was no ego on show. You could win or lose and you wouldn't get a rub down and I knew he had this, I knew he had that. And there was a period of time in Asia where the games were just relaxed and great fun to play. And I mean, they were definitely softer than they were in Europe, but I was at a point where I wouldn't go around and say, I'm going to base myself in Asia because the games are easy. I mean, that would be stupid, but it just so happened that, the games were great. And thankfully, it's like in Melbourne is one of the few places, and even especially during the Aussie Millions, where they still don't, even though it's a very prestigious tour, they don't take the game so seriously. So I just don't. I'm not attracted to games that require you to be
super serious.
Pretend you're in a James Bond film or something.
No, absolutely. So listen, guys in the chat box, we are at 6 minutes to the hour, 6 minutes to 11. Turbo Millionaire will happen at 11. So if you guys want to play, get Turbo into the comments box. Get that in now, and Lee will pick one caller to go for Turbo Millionaire at 11. There's another couple of quick questions that I've got for Sam that will sort of see us through to that time. Filipino players, Sam, it wasn't all roses. You had some issues. You had some concerns with, what you might term friendly play if you were being, completely sort of nice about the topic. What was that all about?
Actually, I mean, this would probably be a long topic, and I don't know, just cut me off whenever you need to. But really, I didn't have a problem with Filipino players per se. Yes, there was a bit of soft play, and you tend to accept it because poker is at different stages in different areas of the world, and you accept that people having a laugh and saying, I've got this, I've got that. They don't necessarily think they're doing something wrong. And at the end of the day, I had no issue with. Not that I didn't have issue with collusion. It's just the players weren't good enough at colluding for it to actually make a difference. But when I had the issue, it was actually to do with I don't know if I can. Can I mention the name of? You
can absolutely mention any name you want.
In terms of poker operators, poker stars.
Yeah, of course. Stars,
I was just very disappointed at their setup. It was just ridiculous, and I don't know, how far. I don't know how much I can say. I started writing a long letter to give to someone to publish, but it got to. Long story short, there was stuff going on with players, and the management was would allow it to pass. simply because the local management, would they'd be in the favour of the locals or whatnot. Yeah. But basically, I had a few. I went to play an APPT in Manila. We went, me, my wife, our family, went back to the Philippines. We chose that time to have a holiday because of the APPT, and it was really ruined after a couple of events. There were a few things that went on that I tried to explain to the management, and I'm friendly with them, and they said, we'll we accept your views, and we'll pass it on, and then Danny, who I'm very quite close to,
I know Danny.
He sort of came on, and he has done before, and he basically said, where they're doing a great job, just keep quiet or whatever, publicly. And I thought, well, I won't sour any relationships there. But when you have, when you have, when you saw the things that I saw and what people are allowed to get away with, and you as a person go there, as a professional poker player, go there and think, I saw this company have the most professional events. They were, looking back now, having been in it for 15 years or whatever, PokerStars was so ahead of the game. They were untouchable. The tournaments they had in Korea, even back in those days, it was one of the first live events I played was in Seoul. They had it down to a T. I mean, you couldn't get away with anything. Any suggestion of cheating, collusion, bam, 1 round penalty.
Yeah, I mean, that was completely my experience with PokerStars, and I knew a lot of the senior people there very, very well, and still do. In fact, a number of them have left the business now. They're doing senior things elsewhere, but very strong people, very morally driven, very aware of the regulatory sort of obligations and stuff like that. And it sounds like there may have been a bit of a local problem there, but it doesn't take too much to tarnish a hard-earned reputation. So Sam, listen, there's one thing that we haven't discussed just before we break for Turbo Millionaire. Obviously, we know you're a talented poker player. We know now you're a talented actor as well. You never told us about the singing.
Oh. Talented or lucky, I'm not sure.
Well, listen, let me just play this little nugget that we found online, and the singer is one Mr. Sam Razavi. This is coming from the floor of an APT event. Obviously, play has broke. He's just having to play around with a mic. Catch this, guys.
I will always love you. It must be.
So I go, but I know I think of you every step of the way.
See you on Facebook.
We'll always love you. We'll always love you.
Then it went a bit mental, Sam. Nah, listen, absolutely fantastic. Where the hell did you get those tubes from? That's insane, my man. That is a really good voice you've got on there.
I didn't think he was going to get there with a high note, but he's been a fair play.
Massively impressive. Massively impressive. Very, very talented indeed. And listen, talking of talent, we are looking for one talented quiz entrant. Leigh, tell me, where are we in the process?
Right, I am there. I have a random name, and I'm ready to press.
Let's do this.
Call. Let's give it a go then. Let's see what we've got.
Sam, this is when you grab your cup of tea.
Oh,
your beer. Go for it, my friend.
It's ringing. Let's see whether they pick up.
JJ says, please don't sing again, Sam. Sorry, you mean Whitney.
Right, we should have a caller on the line. Who have we got?
Hello.
It's Carl Pilgrim.
Mr. Pilgrim, Captain Pilgrim. How are you, Carl?
Who are boss?
Yeah, very, very well. Good to hear your dulcet tones, my friend. So you're going to do Turbo Millionaire for us?
I'll give it a shot.
You're going to give it a shot. You understand the rules, right? So I am going to give you a max of 5 questions, Carl. We will give you one 50-50. So if at any point you're unsure of a question, go 50-50 and I will narrow down your choices. So we'll
No
go
phone a friend.
No phone a friend, my friend. I'm your friend.
Oh.
You're already on the phone to me.
No.
So your time will start with the first question as I ask it, and your time will stop with the finalization of your final answer. Okay, Carl, if you're ready, Turbo Millionaire, for a couple of entries to APAT Championship events next weekend. Question number 1 is: what color light is associated with being given permission to proceed? Green, red, amber, blue.
Green.
Green.
Give him the green light.
That sounds right, my friend. That is 1 for 1. Very well done. You're away. Question 2. Which fictional character goes to Hogwarts School? Billy Bunter, Bilbo Baggins, Harry Potter, just William.
Harry
Potter. It's a quick time so far. That is correct, and you're beyond the dickhead line.
Green.
Well done, Carl. That in itself is something to celebrate.
Emma wouldn't agree.
Well, we all have an Emma. Question 3. London's Olympic Park has been renamed what Olympic Park? Is it the Boris Johnson, Lord Coe, Jessica Innes, or the Queen Elizabeth?
50-50.
50-50. Okay. Is it the Jessica Innes Olympic Park or the Queen Elizabeth Olympic Park?
Queen Elizabeth.
That's going to be the right answer. I'm pretty confident on this one. It is the right answer. You're 3 for 3, Carl. Well done. Question 4. By what alternative name is the kestrel sometimes known? The sea parrot, the yaffle, the sea eagle, or the wind hover? Kestrel.
The wing cover.
Okay, he's gone for D. Wind hover. It's the right answer. You're through to question 5. Final question, Carl. Felicity Huffman plays who in Desperate Housewives? Susan, Lynette, Bree, Gabrielle.
Gabrielle, I don't know.
Let's go for it. It's a guess. It's a quick guess. Oh, it's the wrong answer. It's Lynette. Well, 4 out of 5, Carl. You'll go straight to the top of the leaderboard. Okay. I'm not sure it'll be enough, but it's a very good effort.
I don't think so.
And really nice to talk, Carl. So thank you for taking part.
Yep.
Cheers, Carl.
Thank you, Carl.
Bye.
There we go. You get a bit of everything on this show, Sam.
Beautiful, lovely.
Lovely jubbly.
Tell you what, that was a quick time. If he'd got that last one right, 1 minute 35. That would have
been a record. That would have been a record.
Yeah, that would have been very, very quick. Yeah.
I wouldn't have known the answer to that. I have to say, I recognise those characters, and I did watch it, but it was quite a while ago.
I'm not even going to admit to watching it. No, definitely
yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, I think that's fair enough. What are you watching on TV these days, Sam? Been locked down? What's catching your attention?
I tell you what, I've been watching. I've introduced my wife to. Do you remember a series called Hustle?
Hustle.
Yeah, Hustle's brilliant. Yeah, really good.
It's such a good. I was just looking at it. It's one of the best cast. For the original cast, one of the best cast TV programs I've watched, and the writing is brilliant, and especially Ash, the guy that plays Ash Morgan, the casting for that role is just absolutely spot on. But it's such a great series. We've been watching that, and watching a few. We've done a sort of binge on Supernatural. I don't know if you
haven't seen it. It's the sort of thing I would binge on, but I'm binging on too many other things at the moment.
Yeah, no, that was great as well. We've binged to the point that we're on now. There's 17 seasons, but we've watched it all, so we're just waiting.
Wow, 17. Okay, that's pretty good.
Bloody hell! So tell me, did you miss any UK television when you were out spending years in the Far East? Or were you like on the various download sites?
I don't know why the fact that you mentioned missing any UK TV, it just popped a memory into my mind of who would Jedward? Jedward were on the X Factor.
Oh, those two bloody Irish lads.
The brothers.
Yeah, they were from Mars.
Yeah. Just a real quick story. I remember I was living in Thailand. I was on an island, Koh Tao at the time. And I think it was something like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm woken by a call, and it's my friend he said, Sam, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I thought, what's going on? What's happened? I thought someone had died. He said, well, you know Jedward. I said, yeah. He said, well, they went to a. They were basically he'd put £10,000 on them to be the next act off, because it was where it goes to
What?
you know where it goes to a sing off.
10 grand.
You know where it goes to a sing off between two people,
Yeah.
and you're thinking, well, Jedward, I mean Simon. That's what happened. It went to a sing off, and then it went to the judge's vote. And it went, one judge said, I want this person to stay. One judge said Jedward. And then it went to the deciding vote, which was Simon Cowell. And you're like, well, Simon's wanted them off forever. Yeah? But he didn't take into account they're thinking of the viewers' ratings or
Exactly.
whatever. So in running, they've gone something like, whatever it had gone, 1 to 16 or whatever it was, he'd put £10,000 on to win 600 quid.
Oh, wow.
And then, as soon as they took the bet, Simon said, you know what? I'm going to let it go to a public vote. And he must have just gone, oh, my God. And he said, Sam, the public have kept Jedward back in. I said, what are you doing even putting that sort of money?
Yeah, kids, don't go betting on Jedward.
Exactly. Sounds like an absolute nut job, your friend there, Sam. Remember out there in the chat box, guys, don't drink and gamble, okay? That's clearly what happened there.
Just to give you a quick update on the tournament, we're playing hand for hand at the moment because we're one off the money, so 25 players left. Emma's Oneland's posted up in the chat box. She won the event on the weekend, saying, just to let us know that the one more for being in the money. She's still in, got a very decent stack of chips.
Excellent. We will we will be going over to the poker room very, very shortly to take a look at what you guys are doing. And I'm sure, Sam will call some hands, maybe give some advice. That would be very, very cool. So Sam, listen, you cleaned up in Asia, right? You got the woman, you got the money, the titles, the cups, you did the whole shebang. You had a... Well, okay, here we go. Listen, here's one thing you didn't get. And I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see this, right? I'm going to talk about Mega World, okay?
Oh.
I can go and talk about Mega World here. I'm going to play a video, guys. And this can be described as Occupy Mega World, okay? So Sam, I'll set the scene. Sam had invested in some property in Cebu in the Philippines. He had a lot of difficulty with this property company in terms of actually getting the kit. And Sam decided to take matters into his own hand, and he moved into their showroom, right? He moved into their bloody show apartment in the goddamn office. Let me play the video. It is slightly golden. There we go.
Oh, brilliant.
Live at Mega World, and it's moving in day to day, so luckily I've got my units fully turned over, ready to go. I'll just give you a little tour around. It's the TV there. I've even got a free guitar here. Nice little bar here. Kitchen. They've given me a free bottle of wine there as well. Should be fun. And then this is the best part. This is the best part here. You go out to the balcony. You've got the lovely view across Mactan Newtown. Or do you? Of course not. Because we are in the office of Mega World in Cebu City, and I've decided to move in to their showroom because, as suspected, they're thinking that I'm a penniless pauper and desperate for my money. They think they're going to pressure me into taking a ridiculous offer. So what I've decided to do is move in. I've told them I'm moving in and claiming their showroom unit for the meantime, in the hopes that they call the police. And obviously it goes to show what a company Mega World are, that they've assured me they're not going to call the police, but they are going to leave a security guard with me all night. So that goes to show exactly if you don't already know what they think of their clients that buy units from them, that goes to show how they treat their staff. Instead of trying to find a solution, they just rather have a guy stay up all night, have to watch me, that I don't do anything untoward.
Oh, that's hilarious. Sam, I absolutely love the view from your balcony. The sea view that was of an office table and chairs. That was absolutely classic. Did you get there with those guys in the end? Did you get sorted? Are you there, Sam? You haven't jumped from that balcony, have you?
I think he might. I think he might
have jumped. He's jumped from the balcony. Oh no! It was about a foot off the ground, Lee.
Trying to see if I can get him back on the call.
Have we lost? We've lost him.
Hey, he's back in the room.
Fantastic. Sorry, Sam, listen, I was just saying I absolutely loved the view from your balcony, that sea view that you'd paid for, and you looked down and it was just like an office table and chairs. Were you tempted to jump from the balcony? I mean...
Pretty much, yeah. It was a shame because the whole thing completed is actually really nice, but I had already started, trying to get my money back, so it wasn't something that, I could continue with. It's a shame because the units are really amazing. Obviously, where my unit was nearly finished, they had this whole new development that was going to take years. So, yeah, it was just a joke. I mean, I got all the money back in the end.
Good.
I had to. What I did, I don't know if the view from the balcony. Actually, there was another video I posted. What I did, I went to the showroom,
yes,
and I managed to get them to. They said, "Oh, your unit isn't ready for viewing, sir, because there's glass that isn't put in properly, and this, that, and the other." I said, well, they eventually allowed me to go and view the unit, but they said I'd have to sign a waiver.
Yeah.
And I didn't. They forgot to give me the waiver, so then I immediately emailed them and I said, "Oh, this is another thing. You put my life in danger by showing." And I tried all sorts of things, and yeah, eventually I found a route to get the money back.
Oh, I'm glad you did. I mean, I saw the video where you did go upstairs and you did get to see the place, and it looked absolutely gorgeous. I know they'd made some mistakes with the layout and stuff like that, but, beautiful property. But it must be, the bureaucracy over there just must be incredibly challenging.
The thing is, the guy is a billionaire, and, I even turned around and I said, look, I don't even give me my money back. Give me another unit that's ready now. Yeah, just so I can start renting it out. And the reason I didn't take the unit is because I'd invested, the price of the whole thing was 140k pounds. I'd put in like 70 or 80,000, and the rest was to be paid on turnover.
Yeah.
And we were obviously 2 years late, but I said, look, just give me this unit finished. And they tried to charge me a fee for, they tried to keep $2 or $3 of my money for wanting to, like, one of their first settlements was, okay, well, we're very sorry about that. As way of settlement, we'll give you half your money back. I said, a settlement? I'm waiting for a unit to be completed, and I'm legally entitled to my money back, and you're trying to negotiate by giving me half my money back.
Yeah.
I asked for a unit that's complete, and they just tried to profit. It's amazing. A billionaire, and for $1 grand or $2 they're just. But that's what these powerful companies do. That's why they're, No,
and never more, I suppose, do you feel far away from home than when you're having those types of discussions, and you don't know as many people as you might do back here. It can be tough.
Yeah. Well, the great thing is, my wife's family is very, really, really well connected in the Philippines, and actually, this is how tough it was. Their lawyer, who's one of the most powerful lawyers in the Philippines, obviously, because he's representing Megaworld, which is $1 billion corporation, was actually one of their family's lawyers as well. And we managed to, even with him, talking to them and being like an inside man, still didn't budge an inch.
Well, there's not a lot you can do about that. So listen, Sam, tell us about the World Series of Poker. Magnificent performances, throughout. Millie Maker in particular, it's just incredible to win that sum of money. Of course, so frustrating to get through over 7,300 players and fall one short. But, how does that rank in your pantheon of results and achievements?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously the biggest result I've had, but it's such a killer to come so close. As I was saying earlier on, the one thing that I feel, I mean, there's a lot I haven't achieved in poker, but the one thing that I haven't achieved that will make my career complete, in terms of giving me the freedom to. I've always said if I won a bracelet, you wouldn't see me outside the sit and go pit in the pavilion for the whole week. But it's just one of those things where you're so close, and I actually, I drew the best opponent I could heads up really, and I just screwed it really.
What wasn't to be, and I saw a video of a couple of years ago. It was I think it was a $3,000 buy-in, no limit hold'em tourney, and you went out fourth. You were rivered, with 4 left. That must have been. I mean, you went to your knees in pain.
You see, it's painful because there were 5 of I think there were 4 of us left. Yeah, and I had 17 big blinds and I had 7s under the gun, and I'm like. Honestly, I'm sat here because there's one player who was really, really weak. He's a friend of my friend, and he said, I got there through luck or whatever. I knew I would. He had around the same amount of big blinds as me, and there was another guy who had also around the same amount. So in terms of the ICM, if there was no camera there, I would have folded. And I know a lot of people would say, folding 7s, 4-handed, 17 bigs is a lot. I knew on that table, if I open, fold. Anything I do on that table, within half an hour, Vanessa Phelps had the guy to my left, who was Jesse.
Jesse, he made the final table, right, 1 year?
Yeah. So, whatever I do there, they're going to come up and say, this idiot's folded 7s under the gun, or this idiot open folded 7s. So I thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to shove and hope it just gets through, because I didn't want to open. They're going to apply pressure and, open calling off or whatever.
Yeah.
But what was more depressing was when I actually looked back, and the fact that there was a long wait before I managed to actually turn the hands over and see what I was up against, and I actually had a good fighting chance to win the hand.
Yeah.
I had 7s. I shove, get called by Jesse with ace jack. The other guy folds king queen or king jack.
Yeah.
And then this guy reshoves with the ace-king. So then I was going from, short stack to a 55 big blind chip leader, having crippled Jesse and the other guy who's got he's a prolific Brazilian player.
Yeah.
I would have taken a chunk of chips off him, and I honestly believe that if I had won that, if he didn't river that king, I probably would have won that event, I believe.
Well, at that point, you've only got to avoid
all
6
things
cards.
happen, but in that position, yeah.
So what's your normal plan for a World Series? Are you out there for a certain number of weeks, or do you stay for the whole thing? How many tournaments will you look to play during the World?
It's just usually I'm there from pretty much the first event until the end, and I'm playing every Hold'em event possible, and then I'll probably up to the 3 or 5K mark, but usually, if there's usually something that's more value. If there's a 5K going on, there's probably a 3K or 1,500, so I go for the one that has obviously the bigger value in terms of, the field. But I just play all the Hold'em events, all the Hold'em and all the PLO events, and just as many events as possible, really, and to try firing for the bracelet.
No, absolutely. That's the ultimate ambition. So listen, guys, permit me 30 seconds, please. This show tonight will be the first of a podcast series that we're going to be doing, which will run on iTunes and various other podcast services, we hope. So I've got to actually end that show. All right. So I'm going to play this for 15 seconds, 20 seconds, and then we'll get back to Sam and Leigh in a moment. I'm afraid we've come to the end of the podcast edition of tonight's APAT show. If you would like to hear the rest of the show, then you can find a complete recording on our website at apat.com/TV. Thank you for listening. The APAT show is produced and hosted by Leigh Wilshire and Des Duffy for the Amateur Poker Association and Tour. Copyright 2020. Great. Thank you for that, guys.
It's nice. That was very professional, Des.
Yeah, well,
you've done a good job of that.
If you're dealing with Apple, you have to do the do, as it were. So I have timestamped that now, which means we can sort of roll on with the rest of the show, and we will be passing that over to them in the morning. Okay, so what do you want to do, Leigh?
Well, let's bring a table up. I don't really want to not stop talking to Sam about.
We'll
about
talk
poker,
and table. We'll talk and table.
Let's bring table 2 up, so we've got a table up on the screens. We are down now to 16 players left in the 6 max PLO8 tonight. So the guys are all in the money now. $250 up top, which is very nice for a Tuesday night's bit of work.
Okay, we're live on table 2.
Lovely, good stuff. So, do you play much Omaha high-low then, Sam, or is that?
Yeah, I do. I do play. I play as much as I can. I always make sure when I'm when I'm at the World Series, I always make sure I go to the old. Is it called the Old Orleans or just the Orleans? The Orleans.
Downtown. Yeah.
Well, actually, no. It's just across from the Rio. The Orleans, is it, or Old Orleans?
Oh, right. Okay.
So, let me check. And I always make sure I go to play a PLO high-low tournament there. I would never. I probably at the moment wouldn't play a high-low of 1K or above, but I put in anything up to $500 in something like that because I haven't got that. The problem I have with high-low is I'm one of those people that I like to play all the high cards just for the shock value when they're like.
Okay.
We've heard about this, Leigh, haven't we?
Yeah.
I just like to, I like to harass people and that. They're like, "What are you doing playing that?" I'm just for the punishment of, beating someone just for fun. But
because I know, we've got a lot of players that play it, and they can berate the more novice players or those that maybe aren't playing it perhaps as traditionally as perhaps the game could be played, because they take it quite seriously. It's a game they enjoy playing. They feel obviously they've got an edge perhaps compared to a normal Hold'em or even just a normal Omaha game. It does take a little bit getting used to, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, and especially like sometimes you can be sort of caught with the. I'm watching the thing as well. You can sort of be. That's interesting. You can be sort of caught unawares with the changing low, and then suddenly realise that you're not actually guaranteeing yourself half the pot. You're just being 3/4 or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a fun game.
The hardest thing we tend to find on a Tuesday night is online trying to commentate on this. The cards disappear and move so quick. You're kind of going. You go. What? Who's got what? Where? What? Yeah.
Oh, look at this fence on the turn. It's all over. Okay.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Does Danny know that he's still got chips because he's sat out?
Hopefully he does know. But he's obviously just taking a bit of a.
He's drying his eyes at the moment, I think.
It's like right. I'm not going to do that again. King 8, Queen. King 8.
Not against Emma.
Yeah, well, you were just talking about Emma earlier, weren't you? She had, at the time, 350k, I think. Emma London, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
so-
so Emma's
Right
from
up there.
Emma's from Sweden, and on Sunday night she won our PLO championship for
Oh, that's right. Isn't it?
yeah for $460.
Oh,
And a gold medal, which is hopefully, I think it's gone out today, so should be winging its way to Emma over in Sweden. So
Yeah, wow.
clearly knows her Omaha, I think.
Yeah, I mean, of course, I'm not familiar with all these people, but I mean, I don't know at what stage they're at. But this, if you've got that sort of experience and consistency in Omaha, some of the games in Vegas, it's just like going back to playing online 15 years ago. I mean, that's the place to go. You can really make some good money. A
couple of the guys have said, so Warren Brooks has said, love the Orleans. Everything looks like it's been there since the 70s, including the cocktail waitresses. Best place in Vegas for no limit Hold'em games. Paul Haycock says, Orleans is fantastic. Out of the Rio, past the Palms, pie gow as far as the eye can see.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I just love it. It's just got that, even though I wasn't there in those days, it's just got this feeling of, sort of nostalgia to it. And, I've got a friend in particular who's there, and he's like, where are you going tonight, Sam? And I'm like, I'm a bit embarrassed. I don't know, because he's like, what the hell are you doing down there? He said there's like a 1K or a 2K. I said, yeah, but they've got like $150 Dis to 7 tonight at the Orleans. He's like, what are you? Sometimes you need to go and take a break and have a bit of fun.
I think it's fair to say we've got quite a mix of players, but these players are very experienced at playing relatively small events, 200, 250 type runners, but very competitively. So if you look at just some of the players who have met the final table of an APAT event in a live casino, so it's tough enough to make any final table, but these are particularly competitive, and they've then gone on to win a World Poker Tour title, a World Series of Poker bracelet, an EPT, an Irish Open. So players like Niall Farrell has won a couple of APAT gold medals. Liv Bory made a final table. Roberto Romanello, James Mitchell, who won the Irish Open. Chris Brammer, who topped the world online rankings at one point, met an APAT final table. So tons of players. Really had a multi-day experience with APAT at a relatively low barrier to entry, very competitive events, very, very well ran, very good experience, and then we're able to make that jump into serious level events.
I don't think I've ever played at one of these events, but there's quite a good reason for it, because I thought that there was a time when people used to, because a lot of people kind of knew that I played heads up, bum hunting or whatever. And there are a few events that I genuinely wanted to go to, but I thought, if I go there, I don't want people thinking that I'm going there to try and, on the assumption that it's like, oh, it's amateurs, so they must be bad, and I'm just going there to try and make some easy money or something.
Yeah.
And that is the reason why, and I don't know what the situation is, whether if you consider someone a pro, they can play or they can't, I don't know, but I just feel like, I'm not quite sure how they're going to, see this, and that's why I sort of kept away. Otherwise, I would have loved to, especially one of, I saw the schedule once that had like OFC and all these
stud horse. Yeah, the way that we ran it from day one was that we said, this tour is for amateur players, recreational players. So how do you define a pro, right? So we defined a pro as somebody who made their sole income from poker, which, isn't a perfect definition by any means, but at least it was a line in the sand. And then we allowed players to self-police it, right? So if you were a pro, and you'd have a lot of online pros that we wouldn't be necessarily aware of. They could come and play, but we never really had a problem with it because, for a £75 buy-in or a £100 buy-in, pros generally weren't finding it profitable to come and play our events. They were certainly easier events to play at that level.
Des, but just think what we've already heard tonight. This is the great news, because Sam's making money from delivering roast dinners now.
He can come and play.
So he's not solely making his income from poker anymore.
And and to be honest, we welcome good players, and you would certainly fit within the definition there. But it was always a case of pro players self-policed. So if you felt you were entitled to come and play, by all means come and play. But you know what, you're going to find it a tough weekend. And if you didn't, then we respect that. But of course, we have run many open events as well. So our UK Team Championship, which the likes of Nick Mazur has done very well in, Niall Farrell's done very well in as well. Those were open events, so it didn't matter if you were a pro; you just came as part of your community. And those are the biggest events of all. Really, they're huge for us. But the festival that you were referring to, which was one of the first times that I saw who I would deem a really good player, pro player, actually reaching out and sort of saying, do you know what, I really like what you guys are doing. That's the World Championship of Amateur Poker. So we've run that for 13 years. Big festival, right, 30 bracelet events, in everything from, we were running 2-day championship sort of horse events, eight game events to every format you could think of, at really reasonable buy-ins. And the players would take those events very seriously. They were very keen to win the bracelets. There was a bit of a status thing, and they're still very, very important today.
And actually the England skipper for the next Worlds has just posted up and said, "What? He's an English amateur? No, I've missed a trick there."
You could still drop one of them, Paul.
Oh yeah! Oh no!
We had a couple of.
Do you still run that then?
Oh hell yeah! It's huge. I mean, it really is quite a big thing, and
it should be being run at Dusk Till Dawn in August, but unfortunately we've had to postpone that for the time being, with obviously the situation we find ourselves in. But we are currently working very, very hard on doing what everyone's kind of doing at the moment, which is finding an online solution so we can give the guys something to play this summer. So we're think kind of World Series, but for amateur players online. That's what we'll be doing. So
nice. Yeah,
it's all good. All good.
I do love a bit of mixed game action, especially if it's not for because I don't consider myself. I think I'm at a stage with Deuce to 7 and OFC and Chinese poker that I would happily play that for 1K or above buy-ins. But all the other games, to be able to play them for a reasonable amount that you don't really care if you not don't care, but it doesn't. It's not going to hurt if you win or lose. But I remember actually back in the day, if I remember correctly, when I first started playing down at the casino, I think didn't 7-card stud used to be the sort of main, there was always the rebuy, the no limit rebuy, but the big event was on a Sunday. I think it was a £30 rebuy, and it was 7-card stud. That sort of died a death in the local casinos, didn't it?
Yeah, the English game in particular, a lot of stud, a lot of Omaha, a lot of pot limit back then as well. And of course, things changed dramatically. But the English players were always considered to be really strong at stud games and Omaha games when it came to the World Series. But, that was maybe 10 or 15 years ago. Of course, there's still some extremely strong players, but I think your standard casino structure now or schedule, is no limit hold'em and pretty squarely that. Which is a shame, really, but it does make our festival very, very popular.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, it's a shame where it's sort of gone with the sort of local live scene in most places that I've seen. Anyway, I don't know if there's anywhere that I know that you could go and find a game that's sort of buzzing like it used to be.
Yeah. It'll be.
I'm trying to think who were we talking to on the show the other week where they were talking about the Omaha game that used to take place once a month up in Birmingham, and it was like 150,000 guarantee or something crazy like that. I'm trying to think who we were talking to. Like back in the day, and they said, and you don't see as many of those anymore. I'm surprised. We've been doing the World Championships of Amateur Poker now for, as Des says, for 13 years, and I'm always surprised that somebody doesn't take kind of what we do at the kind of 50 and 100 £100 buy-in and just multiply that by 10. from a buy-in point of view, and put that, because you'd have thought there must be the players there that would want to come and play, and effectively have like a World Series of Poker, but a UK version, of it once a year.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why. I wish I knew more of the reasoning behind. I do remember in Macau when Poker Stars first started at the Grand Lisboa, they had a hard time there because they kept moving casino to casino.
Yeah.
Because they first got shut down in the Grand Lisboa because they literally said your entire poker room of 20 to 30 tables makes less money in an hour than one baccarat table does.
Yeah.
Literally, because especially for the mainland China guys, it was just a flood. There's no roulette. There's nothing else. Most of the casinos in Macau are just filled with baccarat tables, and they're paying like $100,000 a hand.
It's huge. Yeah, it's understandable that poker is going to struggle to take off in that sort of space. Tell me, Sam, did you ever get into the serious money, cash money scene in Macau? I mean, there were some enormous games over there. Were you ever tempted to get involved in that sort of stuff?
The temptation's there. I never really followed up on conversations that I had with people that had the sort of money the money and contacts that could get me into that game. And I've had, I've never got into deep conversation about cash games, but certainly with regards to playing in like the one drop and stuff like that, the percentage, the terms are so small that it's not really worth it. Like it would come with like we'll put you in the one drop, but then you have to pay everything else. And the terms are all the same, so you don't get paid anything unless you finish in the top three. And I'm like, okay, well, that's pointless for me. But yeah, Macau. I mean, back when Macau first, when poker first hit Macau, you didn't even have to, depending on how much money you actually wanted to make, you didn't have to even play in very high stakes games. It was absolutely insane, and I've not ever seen. I nearly moved to Macau, and I just didn't because I just thought I really would get really depressed here. It's like a Vegas almost, but then there's literally nothing to do. Literally, there's no shows, nothing. But you'd go there, and the game was so young that, during Chinese New Year, they'd set up a poker table, and it was a crash course. All the people from mainland China, they come over, and it's the first time they've ever played. They sit them down. Half an hour crash course. This is how you play poker, and they're like, "Bam! Where's the biggest game?"
So that sounds like the environment for a bum hunter, Sam. You could have done really well there, right?
I did for a while, but then it's just a point of it was just a case of, you weigh up like sitting around all day making money to like trying to actually, enjoy life a bit and actually make something of your life other than back in the day when I first started, 20 years old or whatever, it means something different to 10 years down the line. But
do you think that's why, Sam, that you see there's quite a lot of what I would class big players from, say, 10, 15 years ago, maybe, that were winning big amounts of money, and all of a sudden you see them just switch off from playing poker completely, or take a fairly decent break. And there's one or two that I've seen back in. More recent, I think it was Tom Middleton won 2 events on Sunday.
Yeah, he did.
But the names that I remember when I was kind of getting involved in the game sort of 15 years ago, then kind of disappeared. We've spoken about Annette Overstrad a couple of times on the show. Well, probably more than a couple of times. Who just kind of vanished and is now doing a YouTube thing. Just to stop playing poker.
Makeup or something.
Right.
So is it just that you earn?
It's really good.
You earn a certain amount of money and go, well, actually, I want life. I want to actually, do other things, and actually poker to a certain extent, it can give you that, but at the same time, it can actually take away from life's experiences.
I think the thing is that looking down the line, I always made a point of never recommending becoming a poker player to anyone, including my brothers who sort of found their way into it themselves. It's because, unless you get, either, I don't know whether I class myself as good or lucky or whatnot, I've had a good run, all those extra factors of addiction perhaps coming into it. I've always been the one thing that I've always sort of pat myself on the back with is that I've heard lots of players, they've gone broke, they've won this and they've gone broke. I was always very sensible, and I don't know whether that was a good or bad thing, because if I hadn't been sensible back in the day when the games were really soft, maybe I could have, retired early and got out of there. But the thing with poker is it does a lot of things to you, especially if you go into it young and you're making money. You're making money on a scale that is impossible in any job that you can envisage yourself doing. And on top of that, you're not liable to pay any tax on it. You're just, you're able to live a life, the life of Riley. And then before you know it, you think the games are never going to end. And before you know it, 10, 15 years down the line, you're like, okay, now if I want to go and get a house, they laugh at me. It doesn't matter what, I've got in the bank or anything.
Yeah.
I remember one time when I was, and it's not to sort of brag, but one time back in the day, I had quite a lot of money going into my account from online poker. But I'd go in there and they said, "Oh, I think you should see a bank manager about this." And so I sat down and they said, "Let's see what we can do for you." And obviously, the computer says no or whatever. Doesn't matter how much I had coming in; they couldn't even open me a current account.
Wow.
I've heard those stories of people having that situation. They just look, where is it coming from, and actually, and the banks haven't even wanted to provide you a basic account.
They said there's nothing we can do for you, and so it got to the point where I was like, okay, well, my aim is I'm going to have to save up enough money to buy a house cash, because I'm not going to get a mortgage. And yeah, I mean, I don't know why. There are probably different reasons why people get out of the game. I wouldn't be, it takes it out of you. I'm sure a lot of them did what I used to do. Like, there was times when I would stay up, I'd play for 3 days solid. And when I used to go to Paris at the aviation club, that was just such a good game. You couldn't leave it. We would go and play for 2 days straight, and we'd just leave the table to go and have a shower and go and eat or whatever.
How are you staying awake? Oh, actually, maybe that's not a question you should answer, but but.
Well, I only discovered those delights a few years later in Vegas. But no, back in the day when I was 20-odd or 21, 22, I could actually legitimately stay awake for 2 to 2.5 days. And now, I find it hard staying up for 1 day. But there was one time I was staying in Paris. I played for 3 days straight, and I was literally just collapsing. So I went 4 o'clock in the morning. I went to find a hotel. I eventually found one, paid for the night, crashed out. Then I woke up and I felt like crap. And I looked. I was like, oh God, it's 4 o'clock in the morning. How am I not sleeping? And then I realised I'd actually slept a solid 24 hours.
Wow.
And I've only ever done that once before. It was on my Germany tour. I actually slept for 24 hours straight. And then I realised that I got the second night free because there's no one around. So I just hot-footed it out of the hotel room. I should have obviously paid for the next night's stay. And I went straight back to the poker room to play more. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, yeah.
But it's the one thing about when we talk about the World Series in Vegas, and I don't think people people that go out there. I've only been out twice. I think the first time I went out was about 4 or 5 years ago, and you kind of think it's a big thing, and you go, right, I've got a poker schedule, I'm going to play that, and actually you got to pace yourself with these things. They're really long days, and if you've not got a structure and you're not organised on how you're going to do it's a proper endurance event, isn't it?
Well, until recently, because now I've sort of mastered the art of being able to just play 14 hours a day non-stop, because my goal is that bracelet. So I know that the one day you let slip could have been the day that you won it. Yeah. But when I first started going to the World Series, it was back in the day when I was playing more cash. My friend was also playing cash, but he did like the odd tournament. So we'd go there for the cash games, really, and my mate would play like 1 or 2 or 3 World Series events, and then a load of like Venetian 400s or whatever. And even then, just playing the cash games, and this is obviously the cash games. You're not on anyone's clock. You can play whenever you want. I used to find that 2.5 to 3 weeks was the maximum I could stay there, and all the locals were like, "Oh my God, man, 2.5 weeks! I can't stay in Vegas for 2.5 days." You know.
Yeah.
But 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks, that sort of got us, and then we'd have to go. Then it got to a point when I was playing tournaments that I could do the whole series, but I'd have to take a break. Just if you can just take a break anywhere. The great thing is you can get to Mexico, you can get to Guadalajara for 2.5 hours direct flight. You just go and take 2 days out, just out of Vegas, and that's enough to get
refreshes.
back.
Yeah,
and I see that a lot of the guys that go out there for a big summer, Sam, they rent condos with swimming pools, and they try to take reasonable breaks and eat reasonably healthy, and all of that good stuff. Good plan for a big schedule, because obviously there's a lot of money involved, both in terms of your costs, but particularly in terms of your potential to win big. And they're playing it sort of much more. I don't know if cautious is the right word, but it's a much better planned experience than perhaps was the norm.
Game plan, yeah, and I had a not bad, a couple of decent results in the Vegas just gone, and I think that was also partly down to I was staying with my brother, who used to be, he used to play online for a living, but now he just cooks. So what he did is he went out to Vegas and with me, and then he was supplying healthy meals to a few of our, just a handful of players, and to myself as well. So we were really, because it is hard in Vegas, you get to the dinner break, but then you can't go for dinner because everyone's going for dinner.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And then, so you often end up, and it can't be helped, sometimes eating at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just want to go out to eat and have a drink just to do something other than playing poker. But definitely trying to, if you can, try to... I don't think I've met anyone that can maintain that structure for the whole thing. But if you can pace yourself and you can be disciplined enough to eat well most of the time and exercise when you can, then you can. Yeah, it really helps. But if you just go in there, guns blazing, you're
gonna suffer.
Yeah.
So.
So
tell me, Sam, you mentioned earlier, which surprised me a little bit, that you felt that maybe some players didn't take you seriously because maybe you hadn't won that bracelet, right? You hadn't gone to that stage, if you like. Does that mean that you feel like when you're in Vegas, you lack a little bit of support from that, well-known British community? And if so, is that a barrier, or does that work for you? Do you have any strong opinions on that?
I do sort of feel that way, but then I don't think they necessarily. It's just probably the fact that I don't mean they don't take me seriously in terms of not having a bracelet, but I think in terms of where I've come from, I've never. A lot of the players they've sort of graduated from being tough grinders online to then going and getting big scores live and really knowing the game. And I've read one book on poker in my entire life, and I should read more, but I got to a point where I thought, and I've come under criticism a lot of times, people trying to take me to task for, oh, you've made a bad EV play and blah, blah, blah and whatnot. And I'm like, it gets to a point when you actually look and say, well, I'm making money, I'm cashing in a massive percentage of the tournaments I play. I'm beyond the point of trying to learn from someone else, because I don't know if it's going to affect my game for the worst. Everyone has a different way of playing and applying techniques to their game. And yes, I'm sure I can learn stuff from someone, but I don't know whether I think I'm afraid to step into that zone of. Yeah, it's not through arrogance or thinking that I know more than someone, but it's more that I think, well, I might suddenly start thinking, well, I should do this because it's the optimal play, or
So you start to question
whatever.
yourself.
Yeah, but that's the great thing about poker, isn't it? Is that there's not one winning formula. There's
Yeah, well,
there's a stack of ways to win and combinations of different players that will win. You can absolutely see super aggro players that will just win and win and win constantly, and then you have other players that will just play ABC poker, but actually again kind of get there slowly and get the wins as well.
Absolutely, yeah. And this is why I said I have a couple of friends that sadly, they bust out of a hand, and I wouldn't try to say that what you've done is wrong. I would try to give like another. I've never been one, because that's another thing that a lot of the close-knit sort of British players would have they'd sit and they discuss hands, and they have a team of people that they go through it, and that's something that maybe I would have liked to have had. But again, like I said, I think I came from a different angle of approach. But I have friends who they wouldn't even listen to another opinion, and I think that is one thing that has helped me along the way, is that even if after listening I still think what I did was correct, I at least take the time to listen and appreciate another opinion on the matter, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you're in, what profession you're in, even at the age of 90, you're still learning. And I think there are some players, they get to a point that they think they've had a couple of million or whatever, and they're like, no, I know, I'm the man, I know everything. Yeah. But I know I'm always learning something, in the tournament.
That's a good place to be. When you look at your peers in the British poker community, Sam, whose game do you respect the most? Does anyone stand out for you as somebody who you look at their game? And I'm thinking about their game here now, or maybe their consistency, whatever you might call it. You sort of say, well, actually, hats off, fair dues. He's a decent player.
Well, I mean, I think Toby Lewis, you just can't.
Yeah.
I had the pleasure of playing. This is great, actually. What happened? I went to play the World Poker Tour in China the first time it was in China, and I ended up coming third. And the top three got a package to the LAPC, the WPT in LA, because there was only so much a surprise pool because of legalities that they were allowed to declare. So they made the top three, as a prize to play the LA, whatever the WPT is in LA. And I managed to get down to the last. I was there with a friend who knew Toby quite well, and I think that's the first time I really ever played against him and talked to him. And he ended up making the final table. I got screwed with kings, like when there was 27 left. And then we went out for dinner, and he said, "Sam, I always thought you were gay." And then I've met him along the way, in Australia, at the Aussie Millions and whatnot. And him, I think he's a really down to earth guy. Yeah. Really, you can from what little I've spoken to him, you can tell he's very savvy. He's got his head screwed on, and you just can't fault. You just can't fault his. He smashed it up online and then smashed it up live as well.
Yeah, a couple of years back, he went through a very hot streak, didn't he?
Yeah, I think it was 2 years ago at the Aussie Millions. I think he won one of the high rollers and came second in another, unless it was this year, I can't remember. But yeah, he won the Aussie Millions the year before last, didn't he?
Yeah,
2018, yeah.
Great player.
In any case, yeah, he's one of the players that I really, you step back and say, wow, because I'm fortunate to know what it's like to go on a streak where you virtually never bust a tournament and you're always running deep. But to do it on a, in those sorts of tournaments and to do it so consistently, I mean, he's one of the players I really, really respect. There are quite a few, and I know they'll all come to me after this that I can't think of now, but
I think the great thing about Toby is you see the money he's earning now. You go right back to the beginning of his Hendon mob kind of results. And 2009 we're talking here, and there's a £200. He won the 200 plus 20 Ladbrokes Easter at the Rendezvous in Brighton.
It's a good event, that.
That's his first ever Hendon Mob result.
Well, I'm sure Toby's played a couple of APATs. I don't think he cashed an APAT, but he played.
If you look just further up, he's got a DTD Deep Stack cash. He then won the Grand Slam at Dust of Dawn. He played the Sky Poker Tour. Yeah. He played a GUKPT Tour, a £300 Unibet Tour. All these smaller events in the first year or so, and then then it just goes bigger and bigger and bigger. To say, he's done back-to-back over $1 million at the Australian Open. Millions. It's just incredible. Yeah.
So tell me,
he's also the kind of player that I can imagine. Back in the day when we were making money and partying, I think there would have been some fun celebrations.
Oh yeah.
For sure. Anyway.
Shoe bombs, right? A lot of shoe bombs consumed amongst Toby and his mates. Lot of the younger players, Sam, particularly online, streaming now, right? They're all streaming. They're all showing their cards. They're entertaining in a slightly different way while continuing to earn good money. Was that ever a temptation for you?
Yeah. To live stream?
To live stream your play and have fun with it?
I actually have wanted to do it for the last 3 years. And what's always stopped me is a couple of things. Number one, and I think, I don't really care what people think, but number one is I know I do it in terms of I can't take the game that seriously, especially online. So I feel like if anyone was coming on to learn from me, I'd be doing them a disservice, because I'd look, and if it goes like someone just shoves into me from the small blind for 50 bigs and I've got 10-6 of clubs, I'm like, I just want to bust you just for doing that,
It'd be entertaining, Sam. Do it.
So I had thought of the entertainment value would be there, but then I thought of probably the backlash I get.
A bit irresponsible, maybe.
But I guess, Sam, now is the perfect time. I mean, everything's moving, online, probably for most of the rest of the year. Now is the perfect time to do it, and there's some really serious big stuff up for grabs at the moment. Some of the high rollers that we've been watching on Party, and I see they've just announced they're going to be doing the WPT World Championships this summer as well. On Party Poker, so there's some huge opportunities.
The other problem I have, obviously, is if I was to do it online, like I mentioned before, like I'd happily invest that sort of money into live tournaments. I definitely would probably see myself as a losing player online if in this current climate, coming into play like those big high rollers or competitive field. So I'd probably do it for a laugh, but I'd be playing probably the low to mid stakes games because
you can play our worlds. You can play our worlds online now, Sam. Now you're doing your roast dinners. It's not a problem. We're all good. So that's
you just have to provide dinners to the rest of the field. Okay, we'll give you addresses.
So Pete Wigglesworth in the chat says Toby Lewis was one of my favourite players after Sam. To be honest, he's mentioned that he rates you about 3 times, I think, in the chat boxes as Peter Wigglesworth. So
I haven't. Yeah, I've been intermittently trying to check with, but Peter. Yeah, Peter's great. Yeah, I remember back in the black belt days we played. I think he won one of the black belt lives actually, and I think he.
To be honest, he'll come on. If he did, he will remind us about it in a minute in the chat box. That's for sure.
He busted me something like Jack. I had Jack 9 against his Ace Jack or something.
I actually loved. I was going to say when you were chatting about it, what Neil and the guys did at black belt. I loved. I thought it was a concept that really got people enthused and interested and motivated to try and improve the game, and not just improve the game by the usual way, which is just play volume. It wasn't about that. It was about giving back, more to the community and the blogs and the training and everything, and having it was like mentors as well, weren't there? to help support your game and that kind of thing. I thought it was really groundbreaking in what they put out.
Yeah, I thought it was great, and I was actually really, really surprised. I was really surprised that it didn't take off more than it did, to be honest. Because I thought, the idea of, being rewarded with, live staking and having people like Neil and people there to really, help improve your game. I don't know why it.
Good idea, right?
It's a great idea, but it didn't take off. I think they were unlucky in a number of ways. Like when I won a UK IPT in Cork, I think it was.
Yes.
Well, basically what had happened is when I got back to my hotel room that night, some guy turned around and messaged me, said, "Sam, thank you so much. You don't know what you've done for my family." And I was like,
No.
I'm not sure what's going on. Then someone else messaged me and said, "Thank you so much, Sam." I thought, what's going on here? Turns out, without me knowing, they've done a promo giving away, which is fine because it was out of their share of my winnings, because I was on the black belt deal with the Cork thing, yeah.
But they might have wanted to mention it to you before you start getting all these messages, yeah.
Yeah. So basically, I wasn't out of pocket because they would never just go and turn around and do that. But they've given away virtually the lion's share of their share, and that I think they did a few times. They did some promos where they just got sort of unlucky, and I'm not saying it's great for. It turned out like the guy that was saying, "Oh, you've changed my, you've really helped my family." I never knew, but he got like 18,000 euros or something.
Wow!
Like that.
Wow!
Nice work!
Wow!
And there was someone else that got two, and I never knew. And then Neil was like, "Oh,
Well, that's amazing, isn't it? I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's really great. He was fine with it, but I think they ran sort of bad when there was, of all the tournaments, those are the ones that where they're doing some promo.
And they said they were giving out a lot of what they should have been earning themselves. Yeah.
Yeah, and it just so happened that so that sort of hurt them.
So Pete Wigglesworth says, so Sam bust my pocket nines with Jack 9 in the UKPT main event Manchester, but he's obviously clearly gotten over it. It's fine. And he says he cashed in first black belt live London live won the second one with groundbreaking tournament. So so that's Pete. And Steve 40 asks, Sam, so have you ever written a book? Have you ever written a book or thought about writing a book?
I assume he means like relating to poker, or
or not. To be honest, I mean,
I've got many ideas. I'm quite inspired by Stephen King.
Oh yeah,
quite a few horror stories. But I've also wanted, because I've had so many experiences, like poker and non-poker, that have come about from my experiences playing poker and where it's taken me. And I was thinking of writing a book called "In the Company of Clowns." And that was literally, if just the world that I've seen is just, just ridiculous. Like some things that I've come across that.
Well, start it.
I put down just so that one day when I start losing my mind, I've got something there to remind me of. I
would start that one because there are a lot of traditional poker books out there, but some of the greatest gambling sort of stuff that I've ever read was the MIT stuff, going to Vegas and busting the house, and that was never about the game. That was about the people and the thrill and the risk and all of that sort of good stuff. People love stories, so you do it. I'd buy that.
Oh, nice. So I'll get on that today after I started my live stream.
Well, you've got two sales there. You've got Steve and I, and Lee remains non-committal at the moment by the sound of it.
No, I've already mentioned. I've mentioned on this show a number of times. So the Ben Mesrek books, Bringing Down the House,
that's exactly it.
What got turned into 21, the film.
Great stuff.
That book, absolutely love that book. But also, I'm a great fan of Anthony Holden's, so The Big Deal and Bigger Deal books. Love those, that kind of stuff. It's all a bit more kind of the fly on a wall type kind of thing in book form, isn't it? Which is far more interesting than I must admit. I mean, I've got loads of the strategy poker books and that kind of thing, but but they're all fairly dry, and it's much more interesting about the rest of the life of poker. It's a far more interesting read.
Sam, what can you tell us about the Poker Sports League? I see you're down as a commentator for season 2 of that. Is that a new thing, or obviously there must have been a season 1, but I'm not familiar with it.
This is it's amazing. Like, the poker in India is just incredible, really. So basically, what happened? So they let me try and remember. So the Poker Sports League season 1, I was a wild card for one of the teams. So basically, what it was there's because they've had such a big problem with the government in India not recognising poker as a sport.
Yes.
And therefore, what they've really tried to do to really drive make poker more accepted in India, and especially, how it is with Indian families, like there's a lot of pride, and something like poker isn't something that families or your mother or father would necessarily take very kindly to. So they're really trying to push this idea that poker is a sport, and so they set up this thing called the Poker Sports League, which was the prime goal was to really push poker as a sport in India. And what they did is there were, I think, 12 teams, and the teams comprised of like a leader who's one of the more well-known poker pros in India, and then there would be 2 poker pros that would be drafted, and then like an online qualifier, a live qualifier, and a wild card. And that would be the team leader could choose a wild card that can approach any professional poker player in the world. And they're playing for big money. So each team was owned by very rich Indian businessmen, and the like. So
it sounds a bit like the cricket, kind of the way you're talking about it.
The IPL.
So what would happen is, so I got invited as a wild card for Kings Hyderabad, and so if I remember correctly, so you'd play over the course of 5 days. There'd be the same tournaments every day, and you'd be drafted to play, blah, blah, blah. At the end of it, you get X amount of points. Those points convert to chips you take into the final. And then the final is played on a sort of tag team basis, where you go in and play a level, and then one of your teammates, they select 3 players to play, and you alternate levels. And then the top 3 teams get paid, and then it was something like $500,000 to the winning team, something like that. And then I got drafted in, and people get drafted in on various deals, like obviously all expenses paid.
I'm assuming this is a live event, yeah?
Yeah, it's live in Goa, on board a couple of the ships they have, because there's gaming is illegal on land, so you go off onto the cruise ships, and then so last year what happened was they invited me to come and do the commentary, because what they were planning then to do, because the first season went really well, the second season they actually turned it into it was the first time that poker has been televised in India in its history. So
wow.
It was quite a big thing. It's effectively poker night. Poker. What was the big one?
Poker Night Live. Yeah.
Late night poker.
Late night poker. Yeah.
And so I went there, and instead of playing, I ended up, presenting it, and then doing the commentary and whatnot. And yeah, the prize pool was even bigger. There were a lot of big names went there. Dylan Lind. Patrick Leonard was meant to go, but he pulled out. I can't remember for what reason. Alex Torelli, I heard he's been getting a lot of stick. He was there. It's just it's a great, brilliant experience. And it's something that in general, the general view of all the people I've spoken to about it, it's something that they, in a heartbeat, they go and do. One of the best experiences of their
Pretty cool.
poker career. The hospitality is great. You go there, they pay for absolutely everything. You know, always phoning up to make sure there's a taxi to pick you up to take you down to the ship. Then there's a full buffet on board and.
Ultimately, Sam, what are they looking to achieve? Are they looking to try and grow the game for online players in India? Is that the aim?
Well, they're trying to grow it. Also trying to, if they eventually, which I think they've managed to do now, I think, recognizing poker as a sport in India, opens up lots of opportunity there for them. And then they're also affiliated with one of the big online sites there. So between them, it's quite I guess also quite a lucrative venture. But yeah, it's I mean, it's just
well, it's a huge market. I mean, you've got over 200 million people that have a smartphone in India. It's the second biggest smartphone market in the world. They've been trying to regulate poker for quite some time and really struggling because for exactly the reason that Sam said, it's just not seen as a reputable thing to do. But they fairly recently managed to get a huge amount of traction on daily fantasy sports. So, of course, they're a cricket mad nation, absolutely love their cricket. So there are some businesses over there now that have become unicorns out of daily fantasy sports. And I think they're sort of hoping to ride that wave and find a little more relaxed regulation for poker because with the mobile usage, if you could regulate poker, it would be an enormous market. It would be huge. And how did you find your experience on the other side of the microphone then, Sam? Did you enjoy doing the presenting and the commentating?
Yeah, I honestly love that. And,
that's good.
It's just really, really great fun. There's an Indian guy that I did it with, who's Aditya Vabani. He does some live streaming of Fortnite and whatnot, and he's a really lovely guy. And then actually off the back of that, I got invited to do some commentary earlier on in the year with one of the website that's the poker site that's affiliated with Poker Sports League. We're doing their own sort of tour, and then I did that, and that went really well. And then they sort of offered me a year's contract to do 3 or 4 stops a year there, but the first one was clashing with the Aussie Millions.
Oh.
So we decided to chat after the Aussie Millions, and obviously this has all happened. So, but it's great. It's such a good gig to be able to go to India, and you can. The thing is, they're so laid back as well there, and you can, and they play late, so you have some late nights, but then you don't have to start till quite late as well. Like,
if you could, if you could drive around in a metal suit, then it would be a wonderful place to be for a year. India is beautiful, but they have a lot of the worst drivers I've ever seen. I've never seen anything like it. It's insane, completely insane. It's like your worst sort of Skeletrix nightmare with cars everywhere. Was that your experience? It sounds like it might have been.
I have to admit, I've seen some crazy driving. It started in Italy, which surprisingly I thought the driving is really, really something. And then Thailand, doing some stuff up north in Thailand. You had some really hair-raising moments if you were going on tours there. Then I thought I'd seen the worst of it in Cambodia, to a point that I was prepared. I said to the APT, is there any other way I can get in? Because I don't care what APT Player of the Years are on offer. I'm not going to risk my life. Literally, once I was going back to the airport from Cambodia, and somewhere along the road there were 3 massive, heavy goods lorries just overturned, and I just thought, these people overtake and whatnot. I could easily have been just flattened under that at some point. But then I got to India and I thought, holy shit, it's literally, you're just sitting there thinking, as long as I get to the hotel, then I can probably survive the week, and then I just need to know whether I'm going to get get back to the airport without dying, literally.
I'm going to stay.
It's strange to think that way, to be thinking, okay, am I going to survive this journey? And it's literally that. Yeah.
It's a real thing.
So,
I never saw anything like it. Tell me,
insane.
we are down to 3 players in this.
Yeah, we are. We're down to 3.
And we might even be down to 2 here.
2 now, I think.
I think we are going to be down to 2. Yeah, we are.
Tell me, Sam, at what point or at any point do you start thinking about deal making? Is that part of your strategy?
Yeah, I mean, I always, I've seen a lot of people players make the mistake of being too arrogant not to make deals. But at the end of the day, poker is about making money, really. I mean, take the fun factor out and the bracelet. So I always, it always depends. It does depend on a number of factors, obviously.
Yeah.
How much in the prize pool and what are the standard of players I've got here, and really what sort of deal can I wangle? Because if I've got a lot of chips and I've got players that are, I don't know how to explain it, but I've been in certain situations where, for example, I was at Caesar's Palace. I played a tournament. It wasn't massive. It was 14 grand for the winner, but we got down to the final 3, and admittedly, it wasn't. That final table was more luck than skill. I knocked out everyone, and just through good play and bad play. So we got free-handed, and they both turned around and said, "Look," and it was bizarre what happened. They turned around and said, "Listen, do you want to do a deal?" And I had like 70% of the chips. And they said, "The deal is you can have first place, and then we're going to split second and third." And I was like, "Well, that's a perfect deal for me, yeah." But then the casino manager turned around and said, "Okay, well, you've just got this to play for, and it's Caesar's Palace card protector." They said, "You can't do any deals." I said, "I'll do that deal if I get to keep the card protector." And they said, no. So we ended up playing on because they wanted, and me, to be honest, wanted that card protector. I said, well, let's just play on then. And I mean, I ended up winning it, but whatever. But it's it's all dependent on. Sometimes
tons of variables.
Sometimes the emotions come into it. If there's someone, which is bad for me from my point of view, but if there's someone that you can tell like it means a lot if they can get this deal, there are times when I definitely, and I'm not trying to make myself look good or anything, I've definitely given up equity just because you can tell this person sort of either needs the money or it's going to really make a difference.
No, that's pretty cool. That is pretty cool.
I have to do this now.
Yeah.
But having said that, if I can just say one quick story, because it does sort of show the other side of it, because I was playing and I can't remember what the card room was called. I really can't remember. But it was like a £200 monthly event or something. We got down to on the bubble, and then what they did this thing saying, "Do you want to do a deal where we give 100 quid or it must have been 100 quid tournament?" And they said, "We'll give 200 for the bubble, and then we'll just play on." And they gave out cards for everyone to do an anonymous vote, deal or no deal for the bubble. And obviously, I didn't want to do a deal for the bubble not because I didn't want to give 200 quid away, but because of the bubble dynamics, and they wouldn't understand that. So there were 3 tables left, and then everyone was in favour of the deal apart from me, yeah? And they turned around and said, "Oh, it's you, isn't it, Sam? Blah, blah, blah. We're all mates here. You're a pro. You're coming in to take our money." And I kept quiet. I said, "Look, it's not that." I basically told them that I was doing no deal because I expected more than one person. So it turned out I was the only one saying that. And so they're saying, "Oh no, we're all friends here. We wouldn't do that. You pros, you're just coming here trying to take our money." I said, "Look, at the end of the day, it's quite a lot of money up top. If I do this deal, and I tried to explain about bubble dynamics, they didn't want to listen. Anyway, what happened? The bubble burst, and as soon as it burst, I stood up and I said, right, now I'm happy if everyone else is happy. Let's give 200 to the bubble boy.
Yeah.
Not one of those friends put their hands up and said, you know what, that's a great idea. Yeah. I said, guys, I'm the pro that's come to take your money. The bubble's burst, fair and square. Before he goes, who wants to give 200 quid to him? I'm happy to do it now. Everyone kept quiet. So that's the other thing, do what good you can in life, but remember there are some people out there that...
It's a funny old game, I tell you. It is a funny old game.
Yeah.
So listen, we have Ian Thompson in the comments box. Enjoyed Sam's stint with Nick Wealthall. Quite informative, very interesting. Any plans to do any more training?
Again, for the same reasons that I've mentioned, I think I've always wanted to, because I actually quite like giving advice, and I've always got time for anyone that says, "Oh, by the way, Sam, can I just ask you about this hand?" And I'm happy to give as much advice as I can. And I've always considered doing some coaching or whatnot, but it's the part of me that, if I did it, I'd have to charge, and I don't really want to charge, and then I don't want to look like, oh, he's one of those washed-up pros. Now he's trying to make money out of, charging people to coach them. And I think it's a shame, because I think I could, from a different viewpoint of a lot of traditional methods of, oh, look, let's take out your hands and put it into a solver, and let's go through your hand history. I think there's a lot I could teach, but for my own time now, especially being with a family, I have no choice but to charge for that, and I don't really feel good about charging people, because it's something I want to give to people. If people are trying to learn poker, they don't necessarily have the money that I would have to charge, and I'm not being arrogant that way. I feel bad about having to say, I'd need X amount an hour to justify being able to give up that time. But I'm hoping one day that I can find time to actually do something for free. To let people.
Well, what do you think? Obviously, let's go forward a year, 2 years. Touch wood, everything goes well, you achieve your bracelet ambition. What do you think is there in the game for Sam Razavi after that? As we finish the tourney, but I want your answer, Sam. But we've just finished Heads Up.
Yeah, congratulations to.
Did you see that, Leigh?
Michael, Michael. They got it all in pre, actually, which has been quite unusual in this Heads Up. Ace deuce 7-8 against King Jack 6-3, the way it played out. He got there.
So this is probably a great time for this question. What is their post poker for Sam?
Yeah, to be honest, what I've actually been doing, because I've moved back to the UK, is trying to do what I always said I'd do and focus on acting. And so I base every year pretty much what I'm doing now. My main focus is the Aussie Millions and the World Series of Poker. And there was a time when I go and play every tournament I could, but it's those two, and then I try to fit the acting around it. And that's it, really. I don't think I'd ever give up poker, because it's not something. I think it's weird. It's kind of weird when people announce I'm retiring from poker. I mean, it's not like I've never viewed it as that serious a profession. No matter how much you make, I'm retiring. I mean, we're sitting here playing a game online. What are you talking about retirement? Just go quietly into the night. Do you know what I mean?
No, I think you're spot on, my friend. You obviously have a good set of priorities there, and obviously a good, family behind you and all of that good stuff. Listen, Sam, you've been an absolute pleasure to have had on this evening. The nearly 2.5 hours have flown by for us. Whatever about for you, my friend. Thank you for sharing, your stories and your wisdom with us. I hope at some point in future we can do this again, maybe talk more hands and stuff like that, but it has been absolutely fantastic. But A big thank you to all of the guys in the comments box who've been watching on tonight. We appreciate you staying with us through the evening. And there we go. So any last words, Sam, before we call it a night?
Yeah, I look forward to next time, and I'll send the invoice in the post, yeah?
Fantastic. Do that, please. Do that. And I will forward that on to Tomo, because I know he has money.
I'll take 2 Sunday roasts and the Yorkshire pudding, that'll be fine.
Hey, we will deliver. We will ask for some deliveries, believe me. Okay, thank you very much, Sam Razavi. Thank you, everyone. Good night. We shall see you back on Thursday evening. Ciao.
Good night.